Okay, this is Central Group 1, Behavior Change Project. We were looking at our nervous public speaking habits and does awareness training decrease those nervous habits in the long run. We will be looking at our baseline data and our intervention data to see how that awareness training affects those nervous speaking habits.
For this project, our group chose to replicate Spieler and Miltenberger's study entitled Using Awareness Training to Decrease Nervous Habits During Public Speaking. This article was published in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis in the 50th volume. This study used awareness training to decrease nervous habits while public speaking. The study mentions that awareness training alone may be effective enough to decrease nervous habits, such as ums or uhs, unnecessary use of the word like, and tongue clicks that we may use to fill pauses during public speaking. Other studies have shown the effectiveness of awareness training in other areas besides public speaking. This study, done by Wisco and Klatt in 2013, reduced tics in a boy with Tourette syndrome, Asperger's syndrome, and ADHD. The purpose of this study is to reduce nervous habits during public speaking using a habit reversal procedure. Public speaking is an important skill for professionals to have when communicating to a group. Pause fillers such as you know, inappropriate use of the word like, and other noises such as tongue clicking can make speakers appear less knowledgeable and reduce their credibility. Our group decided that these were all habits that we all had, and that we would benefit from reducing these habits. In our future careers as behavior analysts, we want to appear knowledgeable and adequately convey our knowledge of behavior analysis.
In the replication of our study, we had participants, which were 4 graduate students enrolled in SPC 611 at Ball State University. The setting of our study were inside the participants' homes. Materials included an audience, which was 1 or more people present during all speaking opportunities, a pencil and notepad used to write down our notes and to refer to during our speaking. And we also had a computer, tablet, or phone with camera or other digital video recorder to record our sessions. In our study, the behavior that we focused on were 3 nervous speaking habits. These included filled pauses, tongue clicks, and likes that fill gaps of speech and inappropriately used. We individually defined each of these 3 speaking habits. A filled pause was any current spoken sound or word, which were ums, uhs, and es, and did not relate to the meaning or the topic. Our tongue clicks were any occurrence of sounds that emit from the open mouth when the tongue touches the roof of the mouth and a sound is heard 3 meters away. Likes were any occurrence of the word like that didn't correlate or irrelevant to the spoken language. So these were just, again, likes that were used inappropriately. The data collection used in our study was frequency and 15-second intervals. The design we used was a multiple baseline across participants.
Okay, methods of study continued. Baseline, recorded. We are recording sessions of speaking out loud on a given topic for at least 3 to 5 minutes in a public setting. This public setting can be talking to your kids, talking to your spouse, video chatting with somebody. Each participant can prepare up to 10 minutes prior to speaking and can use like a little note card to help them through their speech so they don't get lost. But they can't write down their speech and read it verbatim off the paper because that's not going to help getting a true baseline for the ums and the tongue clicks and the likes. Each group member will record their own baseline. After they recorded it, they're going to review it and tally how many ums and likes and tongue clicks that they did. They need to do this at least 5 times. We decided one person does 5, one person does 6, one person does 7, and one person does 8. So we can figure out who had the most stable baseline and who had the most variable baseline, just for our own curiosity. Once we had that stable baseline, we did do a visual inspection of our own graphs. All right, methods of study continued. Our intervention phase, post-awareness training assessment. Our awareness training took place with having us rewatch our videos and pay attention to the ums and the likes and the tongue clicks and become more aware of them when we do talk. So we know when to avoid them and not use them as we do our public speaking. Our intervention phase was run just like our baseline phase, where we have 3 to 5 minutes to talk about a subject of our choosing, but it had to be towards somebody, whether that would be your kids, your spouse, or somebody on a video chat. If your ums and likes and tongue clicks did not decrease for at least 80%, we would have to do booster sessions, which none of us had to do, which would include having to wait another day before you could do your speeches again, so you can go back and look at your post ones that you did the day before to see where you're doing your likes, your ums, and your tongue clicks, to become even more aware of what you are doing, so you can learn to avoid them. After that day, you would do your booster sessions. If they do decrease after that by 80%, then you can move on. We did a generalization probes where each participant gave a speech to the rest of the group members via video chat on a topic that was not previously spoken about, whether that in your own videos, no matter if you did it, you had to pick a completely different topic than what you had in your intervention and in your baseline. Okay, methods of study continued. The IOA, how we calculated this was that each participant took their own data on their own behavior, and then another group member would look at those videos that they recorded previously and record what the same target behavior, which are those ums, those likes, and those tongue clicks. We took frequency data on those, and we did 15-second intervals on both observers. Data was compared in order to obtain that IOA to figure out, are we looking at the same ums? Are we looking at the same likes? Are we trying to figure out, is this like used in the appropriate manner? And figuring out these tongue clicks. The smaller number, how we did this, how we calculated it, was that we took the smaller number and divided it by the larger number to obtain a decimal. Each equal interval is scored as 100%. Decimal values of each interval are combined, and the outcome is divided by the total number of intervals. The resulting number is then multiplied by 100 to obtain that IOA percentage that you see later down in the presentation. This is done for at least 33% of the participants in the baseline, and in the intervention phase of the study. What you will see later down in the presentation is that we did IOA on 2 of our baseline videos and 2 of our intervention videos.
Treatment integrity. Our data on treatment integrity or treatment fidelity was calculated for at least 33% of sessions in each phase of the study. Each participant's chosen group member watched the video recorded speeches from each portion of the study and scored steps of the implementation process via a treatment fidelity checklist. On awareness training, the number of steps marked with a yes was divided by the total number of implementation steps for each portion of the treatment. The resulting number was the percentage of treatment fidelity. For the results portion of our study, each participant recorded their behaviors and provided a baseline data table, an intervention data table, a graph of the data, and IOA data on each other.
This is my baseline data. You can see that I did 5 sessions of baseline. My average was 6.44 nervous habits per minute, and my range was 4.96 nervous habits per minute to 7.62 nervous habits per minute. I had the highest average out of my group at 6.44. I used ums and uhs the most frequently, and I did use some tongue clicks as well. The highest count that I had was 25 ums or uhs during a session, and the lowest I had was 12 ums or uhs and 5 likes for a total of 17 nervous habits at my lowest in session number 2. This is my data following the awareness training. I did 5 sessions here, and you can see that my average rate per minute reduced to 0.25 per minute, which is significantly lower. The range was 0 to 0.33 per minute. I only did 1 or at the most per session here, and there was 1 session where I had 0 nervous habits per that session. This is a graph of my results. You can see that before the awareness training in the baseline session, during the first 2 sessions, my nervous habits began to decrease, but then it leveled out to steady responding. And then you can see following the post-awareness training that my nervous habits significantly decreased at a steady rate. They were at the most 1 nervous habit per session, and then on session number 8, there were 0 nervous habits per session. My nervous habits did reduce by over 80%, which I think it was pretty easy for me to reduce my nervous habits because they were so high before the post-awareness training. A few things I did notice is that I had to talk much more slowly during the post-awareness training sessions because I was more aware of my speaking habits, and if I did have a need to maybe use a nervous habit to fill that silence, I would just pause for a minute and think about what I was going to say next rather than filling it with any of those nervous habits. The other thing I noticed I did was I started to clear my throat more in place of those nervous habits because that behavior of clearing my throat wasn't targeted during the intervention.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and this is my baseline data. So my average rate per minute was 4.62, and my range was between 2.87 and 5.9. My habits reached nearly 6 habits per minute, which was not the highest of my group members, but definitely on the higher end. My ums accounted for the highest category of nervous habits during public speaking and had the highest frequency across all sessions. So this is my post-awareness training data. And as you can see, my average rate per minute decreased from 4.62 nervous habits per minute to 0.26 nervous habits per minute. So it was a significant decrease. My range went from 2.87 to 5.9 to 0.31 to 0.64. My highest frequency of habits per minute was 0.64, whereas it was nearly 6 in my baseline data. So I do feel that the awareness training did help me decrease my ums, my tongue clicks, and my likes. But what I did notice during this intervention was that I replaced these nervous habits with other nervous habits, such as pausing or clearing my throat or coughing or body tics. So I think that I was more aware of my ums, likes, and tongue clicks, but I just replaced my nervous habits with more nervous habits. So this is the graph of my data, and as you can see, there was a significant decrease following the awareness training. At one point, I think it's session 10, I did not document any nervous habits during public speaking, which was great. But as I mentioned before, we did not document the other nervous habits that I displayed probably even before our awareness training, but I definitely did replace some of my ums and tongue clicks and likes with other nervous habits. Like I said, like clearing my throat or body tics or coughing, long pauses. Those are all things that I found myself doing that we did not document. So I'm not sure that this intervention really helped with my nervous habits during public speaking. I think I was just more aware of certain behaviors and I replaced them with other nervous behaviors.
Okay, this is my baseline data. The average rate per minute was 1.95. I did not have a giant amount of ums, likes, and tongue clicks as my other group members. I also filled in my ums and likes and tongue clicks with other things like and really awkward pauses. And I've done that all my life, so that might be why I don't have as many ums, likes, and tongue clicks. My range was 2.78. This is my intervention data. The average rate per minute was 0.45. It is, even though I didn't have the baseline like I didn't have like a very significant amount of ums, likes, and tongue clicks in my baseline data. I even decreased even more in the intervention after the awareness training. And I got it down to almost having just one like or tongue click during at least a 3 to 5 minute talking spree, and the range was 0.64. Even though I had 7 sessions, it was actually quite hard to get my baseline stable enough, but it was a good enough range to realize like it was very inconsistent, and the intervention was a lot more consistent with decreasing that variability of like sometimes I have 1 click, sometimes I have 12. And now it went down to an even slope of just having 1 or 2 or 3 instead of having this wide range of having only 2 instead of having 2 to 12. It's only going to 3 to 1. It's not this giant range anymore, which I thought was pretty cool.
As you can see, this is my baseline data. Because this was a multiple baseline design, I had 8 sessions. In the first 2 sessions, you can see high occurrences of ums and uhs. And as the sessions continued, I started to demonstrate a steady baseline, and my data, or as you can see in the data, my behaviors started to reduce. This could be due to the awareness that I had of the study, and I knew that the ultimate goal was to reduce some nervous speaking habits. I demonstrated other types of nervous speaking habits, but it is not reflected in the data because those were the behaviors we were targeting. I had few occurrences of like, and 0 occurrences of tongue clicks. So my major behavior was ums and uhs. My average rate per minute was almost 3 minutes, and my range was about 5.77. Seen here is my intervention data. I had about 5 sessions, and the average time that I spent on each speaking opportunity was about 3 to 4 minutes. I had, at the first session, I demonstrated a high occurrence of and and then as the sessions continued, my behaviors reduced from 1 to 0 occurrences. Again, I had 1 to 0 occurrences for ums and uhs, 1 to 0 occurrences for like, and 0 occurrences for tongue clicks. 0.73 was my average rate per minute, and my range was about 1.95. What you don't see in the data is that because the behavior is reduced, or as you could see, the behaviors are reduced, a lot of the ums and the uhs and the likes were ultimately replaced with other behaviors like long pauses, sniffing, and body tics. So I did a lot of movements with my face or with my body. Thank you. As you can see here, this is a graph of my results. In the beginning of my baseline session, you could see high amount of habits per minute. And then as baseline continued, I start to show a steady baseline. In the intervention section, which I just noticed my baseline did not appear. The ninth session, I had a high occurrence of habits per minute, and then it started to reduce to about 0 to 1 habits per minute.
So this table displays our IOA data, averages and ranges across all participants in our study. So for Christina, her average was 75.08% and her range was 60.5% to 92.31%. For myself, my average was 67.45% and my range was between 53.13% and 78.57%. For Jennifer, her average was 91.39% and her range was between 71.43% and 100%. Then for Mary, her average was 35.37% and her range was between 20% and 50%. So as you can see, we did not reach that 80% IOA agreement. In some areas, our range was between 20 and 100%, so it wasn't quite consistent across all participants.
In conclusion, all of our nervous habits did decrease after awareness training. Christina and Taylor both had a reduction of over 80% of their nervous habits, while Mary and Jennifer did not have a reduction in 80% or more. They did have lower baselines to begin with, making it more difficult to reach that larger reduction in nervous habits. Overall, our group's IOA was quite variable, ranging from 20% to 100%. This variability in IOA could have been the result of some of the group members having a hard time distinguishing when a like was used appropriately versus inappropriately. Another reason for the varying degrees is that we might not have been able to catch all of our own nervous habits while the other group members were able to catch more. The group IOA did not meet the desirable 80% like in most studies. Our IOA for the group was 67.32%. However, it was at least over half of all intervals were in agreement.
In this section, we're discussing the limitations and the recreation of our study. We were limited to 3 certain public speaking habits. They included like, and tongue clicks. We found that during our study, or as we recorded our videos, that all of us had different or various types of speaking habits that we engaged in, or that didn't include the ones that we were tracking in our data. Some of the speaking habits that we came across were you-knows and long pauses without speaking. As a group, we decided that if the study were recreated, we would suggest that the researcher expand the various types of speaking habits and ones that probably best fit the participants. Another type of limitation that we had during a replication study was that as we reduced our speaking habits, we started to replace a lot of them with other behaviors. So as we became more aware of the ones that we were tracking, we replaced the speaking habits with longer pauses, body tics, coughing, sniffing, and clearing of our throat. Again, if this study was recreated, we would suggest to the researcher that they may want to target various types of nervous speaking habits because there are so many. This section is a continuation and the limitations we found during the replication of our study. Another limitation that we found in our study were the type of random subjects selected for reading. So a lot of our subjects were elementary type subjects that we discussed. And then also the amount of time given to prepare. Types of subjects that we discussed were how-tos, and if I had 3 wishes, or my favorite holiday. So they kind of fell in the lines of that. Typically, as graduate students, we would present material related to our study or what we're majoring in, and have many opportunities to prepare and rehearse. For our study, we only had 10 minutes on a random subject, so it didn't give us very much time to prepare what we're going to speak on, or even to speak aloud before we spoke in public. For the recreation purposes, the researcher may want to look under conditions that are familiar or similar to what university students experience. And so again, that might be something that they give them speaking opportunities on their subject matter that pertains to their study. And then also during the study, for recreation purposes, they might want to provide many opportunities for practice. This is another limitation, and I find this as a major limitation, is that as participants, we were aware of this type of study. And because we were initially aware of what this study was and what the ultimate goal was, our speaking habits varied, and because the whole point of the study is for awareness, and how, because of awareness, it reduces the speaking habits. And this might have skewed data because we were initially aware. Obviously, if the study was replicated, the participants unknown to the study would be selected. So somebody that's not familiar with it. And this would most likely not be limitations to others in the study, because if they were going to do it, they probably wouldn't be participants themselves.
Okay, these are our references. One is for the main article that we used, And the other one is another article that I found that kind of did awareness training in a similar way, which I thought everyone might want to see.